Oh, cardinal. Anyway, yeah, I see if there's water. A lot of rain here. I don't know if I'll be able to get where I gotta go. I don't think there's water in there. No, it just looks wet. Anyway, economics video. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Responding to a comment I think is by Nick on my website. So thank you, Nick. Appreciate people watching the video. It's not many, but thank you. Anyway, so the argument is that, okay, yeah, there's some good metaphors in here about this momentum thing in the economy. Maybe some good arguments about ownership and what it does. I don't even know if he goes that far. So let's really talk about that. What is the problem? His problem is that you can't blame the rich. And I'm going to argue that it's the whole problem. It's the definition of the problem, is the acquisition of surplus, ownership. So when you acquire surplus, you acquire ownership of extra stuff, the stuff you don't need, you don't consume. You just own it. Automatically it becomes a rental. It becomes something you rent to the world, like even money, cash. What does a bank do? It basically rents you money, right? It's rent. It rents you money, you pay rent, and you're renting to own, essentially, though. I don't even know if you're doing that, though. Theoretically, the government's not doing that, obviously. They're never going to own, they're never going to regain control of their debt. They're just going to rent the money they rented. And they're just going to rent it forever, unless somebody does something to fix it. You know, something it has to be a big thing, because you have to come up with a huge amount of money to resolve the debt. So debt is rent. Ownership automatically creates rent, because an owner, if you own something, let's say I own this pile of horse manure, right? I own it. It's my horse manure. I'm going to try to rent it to somebody, right? Because I know it's not going to do me any good sitting in the garage. I don't have a garage, but I have to put it somewhere outside, presumably. I mean, my house is a pile of shit, but I wouldn't have actual shit in the house. But anyway, so yeah, I try to rent it to somebody. I try to find somebody who'd want to use it, but I get to retain my ownership. Because I don't want to sell it, because then I'm just going to get shit for the shit. You know, I mean, I can trade shit forever, but the idea is I'm kind of saying, no, it's a good piece of shit. It's as good as any other shit. So, yeah, I'm going to hold on to that shit and rent it to somebody else. Alright, so something interesting. You know, interesting biology here, but no. Anyway, my eye's always looking for turtles. That's just what my brain does. I'm a little turtle focused. Should be a good turtle weather. I should actually see a turtle, because they love after the rain. They like to sit in these little puddles. But there's so few turtles now that it's not automatic anymore. Certainly was when I was a kid. Anyway, so I'm yammering on, but I didn't have all this turtle knowledge back then, so I didn't know the easy way to find turtles is to go out after a rain. But anyway, doesn't matter. It's a separate subject. So the real game here is surplus, is possession of ownership, because you can't create an interest commodity until you have possession of a commodity. You have to own something before you can rent it. You have to, and rent is interest, essentially. Where am I going? So yeah, so the problem with our economy is that ownership ends up being essentially forever because of our inheritance policies. We allow huge inheritance. Huge fortunes have existed for hundreds of years. All of that ownership is retained generation to generation and is made bigger and bigger and bigger. The rich don't get poorer, they get richer. And they get richer because of the amount of rent they're collecting. It's like kings could squander an awful lot of money because they were collecting an awful lot of money in rent. And, the lords and all the rest of that whole nonsense. And so the fact that they just never die. their ownership claims never die. And that means that all the rest of the commodities are probably already owned. So now people even think they own something and they don't really own it. Even when you pay your mortgage, you don't really own your house because the national debt, you owe $200,000 or $300,000 in national debt, which wipes out your ownership of your house. So in a way, our bankruptcy is, our rental contracts are extensive. And that's if you're economically viable. If you're already in debt, then yeah, you've got mega rental contracts that you're bound by. You'll be paying interest for your life. And just like, serfdom or whatever, it's a monarchy, essentially, when inheritance is forever. And what I've explained before is the problem is that if these trees are already owned, then I attempt to rent own them through some mortgage contract or some other nonsense where I don't really own them, but I think I do. The point is that all of them are going to get so loaded with ownership tickets that the price just keeps going up because everybody already owns everything. So it's this huge sort of inflation of the value of all the commodities because nobody has to earn the ownership anymore. It's all legacy ownership. So the forest is already owned, legacy, by the king, so to speak, the king family, and that makes the price of it higher than it would be if I didn't have to buy it out of its previous contract. So surplus being perpetually owned just means that we can't buy the stock market. We have to buy a stock instead of actually buying a company. That's what it essentially turns the world into, where you have to buy just some sort of piece of something in a fake market rather than in the real market. Oh, I don't think I'm going to bother with that. No. Yeah. Well, I'll run this way. Get my run in anyway. So, yeah, enough of the video. Sorry for the noise and such. Crap, as they say. Well, as I just said, crap. So, till next time, and such. So forth and whatnot. Alright, a little bit of an add-on. Hate to edit videos, but anyway, just smash them together anyway. Yeah, I didn't include the part about the investment choices made because of the way this money is, or the tax advantages. So these are two really big issues. So the money, the interest, profit, rent, landlord profit, isn't taxed at the same rate that work is taxed, and so that's a huge problem in terms of creating an imbalance. And when this wheel is turning over time, it's going to get more and more out of balance because of this. You get what you subsidize, and essentially disproportional taxation will create a subsidy. Dead bird. At least something. Anyway, yeah. So these things are coming up, whatever the hell they are. Some sort of flower. Something's growing anyway. I almost killed this stuff. Killed the bamboo. Too damn cold the other night. Anyway, this is happening every year now. I'm losing some of my prized stuff because I put it out too soon. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Deers are going to eat everything anyway. Alright, so the other thing, what's the other thing I want to get to? Yeah, was the investment choices. So the other real problem is that when you have an economy that's run by this capital, this surplus money that the rich put into the economy to make a profit. So we're automatically paying interest on investment, where if the government makes the investment, we wouldn't have to pay any interest. So we, the people, would be a lot better off investing in ourselves than waiting for rich man to invest in us, because we have to pay the rich man the interest. So that's a huge amount of money when you talk about all the corporations and companies and everything else that are all run for the profit of the rich rather than run for the benefit of the consumers and the workers. And yes, you have to have a way of controlling consumers and workers so they don't exploit each other, and that's creating that balance that's the really important one. But the rich are irrelevant to all value in the economy. They merely control the value. They don't produce any of the value. And there's huge negative incentives built into this rental deal, where if we don't create, it's like in the real world, if you don't create real standards, okay, then desperation will drive the standards, and people will accept less and less service and pay more and more of a price because they just haven't got any real choice. That's the market. So what we have is a capitalist system where there's every incentive for the money to go where it's going to get the biggest return for the owner, not the best result for the workers or the consumers. It's all about the owner and his benefits, and it's the only standard by which anything is judged, is how does the owner benefit. So that's what you end up with, monopolies, and you end up with all kinds of small print as being the standards for business practices. They all gravitate to the lowest common denominator. They all play the game in the worst way because everybody else is doing it. It's the only way to be competitive. So you end up with coupons and rebates and other shenanigans, ways of ripping people off. Small print being the cliche example of a horrible byproduct of being gamed by people trying to maximize their profit rather than create an honest, humanly useful, productive and efficient service. I cut the grass yesterday. It looks very nice, actually. Really, quite nice. I gotta cut mine now. Yeah, everybody else is looking better. Mine's looking shittier. Gotta work on that. So, anyway, I think that's enough of an add-on. See if I can jump rope out here or something. Gotta get back to my old habits. My new habits kind of suck. So, I gotta move stuff to do that. So, that stuff everywhere. Too much stuff, that's the whole problem. I have gone on a stuff acquisition thing in the last 30 years. It's all junk, but I call it stuff. Yeah, see, my empire is just crap. It's all just crap. But it's mine. So that's why we have to have mechanisms to stop this, because people are just fundamentally going to take all they can take if you're going to give it to them. You're going to let them have it, and we're going to end up squandering and wasting. And that's why you have to control the nature of the beast. You have to work with that nature in a constructive way. I'm going to fix this thing. This really is a clunker. Anyway, it's got a bent crankshaft. So anyway, it doesn't really matter. Not your problem. And such. Yeah, I really think that's all. Oh, I'm so far behind. Till next time. Sorry. Just pointlessly yammering on. Pat. Okay, enough of that too. Till next time.